still join us as we go, so we'll let them pop in as we get started. But I want to make sure that I don't keep you late today, and we have a lot to tell you. So thank you so much for coming to the teacher rollout. After a long day, I'm sure, teaching and working with students, we really appreciate you taking the time to come this afternoon and spend a little bit of time with us. So I want to welcome all of you. And if I haven't met you already, I'm Selena Mills, and I'm your health education consultant. So it's exciting to be able to do this and to be able to do it for all of you. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today looking at the changes that are coming for Perkins 5 and the changes that are coming in particular to the way that we record what we're doing and to the credentials that are added to that approved list. So I want to dig right in for you. Our goal today is just to show you a snippet of what's coming, because the project that was done by our grantees was actually fairly large. So we want to give you some information that you can use to get going, but not so much that we overwhelm you, especially as you're getting ready to leave on summer break. So today's goals are really to talk about what that change is from Perkins 4 to Perkins 5, and then to talk about key terms that we're going to be using in Perkins 5 and how that differed from what we did in Perkins 4, so that as we talk, we're using the same language and meaning the same things. And then we'll dig into those credentials that have been added to the approved list, and we'll talk about what that means for all of us as health teachers. And then we're going to talk through some of the documents that you'll be getting, and we've given you some samples of those. So you should have, and actually I think your group has more than some others, you should have some documents that you got in a know before you go email. If you can't locate it, look in your spam or your junk mail, because it could be there. And if for some reason you didn't get those, we're going to send them again at the end so that we make sure that everyone has them. So they should all be PDFs and should open pretty nice for you. So as we dive in, I know that there's going to be lots of questions. So I've got the chat up and we're going to be monitoring the chat, but you're also going to be seeing this slide periodically throughout the presentation. So we'll pause periodically and ask for questions, but if any of you are like me, that question comes to my mind and then I think, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose that. So if you think of it and you want to throw it into the chat, we'll go back and monitor that chat so that we can answer all of your questions. And then after today, we're taking all of the questions from today and putting it into a document and throwing it onto the website so that all of you can see each other's questions in case you forget what the answer is, or it comes up for you later. So with that, I want to dig in, and we want to start with a little bit of history. Why are we making these changes and how come we have to do all this? Especially for all of you, when it wasn't that long ago that the gap analysis document just went through some changes already. So a couple of years ago, the federal government moved from Perkins 4 legislation to Perkins 5. And when our legislators did that, they made some changes in criteria and in language that Michigan didn't really have an answer for. Other states didn't as well. So we had to go back and look at our state plan and adapt to those changes. And you can see the big ones here on your screen. So big changes are, we used to have those technical skill assessments or end of program assessments. And in the language for the federal legislation, they identified some different options that we could use for our core performance indicator. And so we had to go back and look at those options and pick one of those things. So we moved from our standards that were aligned to assessments to credentials, and we'll kind of talk about competencies here in a minute, but those competencies that align with the credentials so that we're aligning our language. And then with that, the legislators also mentioned courses, and Michigan didn't work in courses, we worked in segments. And so as an answer to that, we are transitioning from reporting by segment to reporting in what we're calling a PCC or a Perkins course. And so when we do that, It will just be a reporting change for you. It may or may not impact the way that you set up your program. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today. And then finally, the other big change for us was moving from our agreements and then trying to build larger, more robust credit agreements with our post-secondary partners. So that was part of this project, not something we're going to focus on in our time today, but it's something that I want you to know is coming, because that's a big focus here in Michigan, is trying to make those credit agreements more robust so that students have even more opportunity. So when all of this happened, it was about the time that then we all transitioned because of the pandemic. And so our rollout for this project is occurring a little bit later than what we anticipated. So when the legislation first came out, we had what's called a transition year, and we had time to figure out what we were doing as a state and what kind of decisions we were going to make in regard to the legislation. So we rewrote our state plan, that got accepted, and then from there, we rolled out this project. Now, again, the project had a little bit of a delay because of the pandemic, but the federal legislation is such that we have to keep moving. So here we are getting ready to start year 2, and we're rolling these things out to you. Because we know that the timeline is short, because we know that you've had an incredibly crazy year, probably the craziest and most difficult year you've probably ever taught in. We want to be really sensitive to that and to the fact that I'm sure it's hard to throw these changes at you when you've already had so much upheaval and change. And so our goal throughout this process is going to be to support you and to stand by you and to help you however we can, and then to help you phase this in so that we can help you make baby steps along the way to where you need to go, and so that you're not overwhelmed. So today's the first start of that. From here, we're going to be working together in our association conferences and in different meetings, and we'll offer more assistance so that we can move forward. So when we talked about previously having assessments and now moving to credentials, that was one of the big changes that federal. So the federal legislators, when they wrote this, gave us a choice for our program quality indicator. I don't know if you're familiar with the numbers, but it used to be 2S1 in the core performance indicators. Now it's become 5S1. And they gave us a choice between just a few things. So in Michigan, we pulled together a group of folks to be part of an accountability subcommittee. And we really debated which of those things we wanted to go with. And in the end, we picked post-secondary recognized credentials that you can see on your screen. And there are 5 different things that make up a post-secondary recognized credential, or that qualify as a post-secondary recognized credential. And along with us, our post-secondary partners had to agree to the same thing. So they're working on this as well. And you'll see that things like educational degrees and educational certificates count as part of that post-secondary recognized credential. And those things make a lot of sense for our post-secondary partners. But for us, we knew that we may have to rely more heavily on things like industry recognized certifications or licenses as our measure of quality. And the accountability committee picked this because it really aligned well with some other things that we were doing as a state. So if you think about the governor's 60 by 30 plan, where 60% of adults will have some sort of a credential by 2030, that was in place, and that really aligned well with our goals. And then this post-secondary recognized credential indicator also aligns really well with our top 10 strategic plan, and it counts as some of those goals, and it also meets some of the metrics for those goals. And we were not alone. Every state had to pick one of these items or a combination of items that were offered. And so 22 other states, or 43% of them, also picked post-secondary recognized credentials. So they're working to identify these things for programs the same way that we are. Now, I do want to step back for just a minute and kind of break down some of those post-secondary recognized credentials for you, because I know that as we start to talk through this process, you'll have some questions. So I want to catch some of those up front. When we say post-secondary recognized credentials, and we had that list, industry recognized, educational certificate, license, one of the things that I want to make sure that you're familiar with is what an industry recognized credential is and how that's different from a post-secondary recognized credential, or how it fits together. And so an industry recognized credential is a credential that is valued by the labor market and by employers. And a lot of times it is portable across states, or at the very least, there's some sort of reciprocity agreement where they then recognize or understand what that credential means. And it allows us to, again, speak the same language as our employer partners. So the other big piece of that industry recognized credential is that typically it's very specific to an occupation. So it tests those occupational skills for one or a very small subset of occupations, as compared to what we're calling supplemental credentials. And those are things that you all will be familiar with. So a supplemental credential is the same type of thing, recognized by employers, valued in industry. Instead of being occupation specific, it tends to be portable across multiple occupations. So for us, think of CPR and first aid, or something like OSHA. Valued definitely by employers, but it's good in more than one industry. And those supplemental credentials are things that have been identified, but don't necessarily count as a Perkins 5 indicator because they're not industry specific. So as we started to work through this process in Michigan, we knew we had to start with some of our programs. And we have 53 different zip codes here. So 53 projects at once is a lot. So we put out a grant, and different CPIDs or CTE directors and partners applied for that grant. So they had post-secondary partners, employers, and some of their own fellow peers in other counties, and they applied together as groups. So you can see from the screen the list of the 7 programs that went through this process. So you are not alone. There are 2 that weren't grantees, but went through the process as part of some parallel work because they needed to do some curriculum review and updates. So along with you, you've got probably some peers in your school or your district or center that are also going through this process, and they probably have already sat in on a rollout previously. So as you have questions, you might also be able to lean on them. And this is really what our process looked like. We needed to start with what we already had. So the things that we've already been doing, those standards that we already have, won't change for us. So all of the work that you've been doing previously, the things that you've aligned to previously are still in place. But what we did is challenged our grantees to look at those standards and then to talk to employers and look at what kind of credentials they valued out in industry, and to take those 2 things and make sure that they aligned. From those 2 things, they created competencies. So a way for us to measure and understand what a student knows how to do. And then from there, they put those into those courses that are required for reporting under Perkins 5. And then they did some more things along the way. They took those courses, they aligned them to the Michigan Merit Curriculum flexibility requirements so that we can tell schools and we can tell students, here's how our program aligns and here's the kind of flexibility that you should have for your graduation requirements. They went to their post-secondary partners and they talked to them about how our courses and standards aligned with post-secondary to see if we could get some regional or statewide transferable credit agreements so that maybe we could kind of ease the load for all of you and create more opportunity for students. And then they also looked at a really robust program of study. So if we have academic alignments and post-secondary alignments, and then how does that fit together, and how do all those other pieces like work-based learning and supporting students in that transition from secondary to post-secondary, how do those things apply? So again, for today's purposes, we're going to bite off a little chunk of this And we're going to talk about the things that you need to know first and that will have the biggest impact on how you think about your program and what decisions you might make in the future. So today we're going to talk about that alignment to the standards and the alignment between competencies and credentials. And then we're going to talk about those Perkins courses for reporting. So with that, I want to pause for a minute and find out if you have any questions about the overall process that we used as a state, because I know that was a quick version of the work that went on for the last year.
If you don't have a zip code listed, what are the expectations for next year?
Very good question. So if your zip code is not listed there, then the expectation is that you're going to continue to work with standards, the gap analysis document, and segments. So we'll almost have folks doing some parallel work until your zip code goes through that process. So if you are the 51 zip, you're going to move ahead with this new process and report under Perkins 5. For the other, I think it's 45 or 46 zip codes that haven't gone through this process, you're going to be moving along and using segments still and using standards. And then we'll re-roll out this grant process again, and it will come back and we'll pick up some more zip codes to go through the process. And I see Leslie has a question. Go ahead and ask.
So I teach the health science. I have the zip code 51. The CNA certification will be my standard, correct? What do we have to report for this year?
Oh, perfect question. And then I will dive into the credentials so we can show you those so that you get to see that. There's actually multiple credentials that you can choose from. And this year, like the current year that we're in, that you're getting ready to report, you're going to report as you've done in the past. So none of these changes will actually take place in the CETUS system until next year, until next fall. So you can continue, reporting the way that you've reported as far as segments and, the credential list that you've been working from for now. And then everything that I'm showing you will take place in the fall. And let me look and see if there's anything in the chat. I think it's just that email, and we've answered that and downloaded some of the documents there for you. So, oh, and more popped up, I'm sorry. Are there any standards that can be added still, or is it too late? That's a great question. Let me answer that when we get to the next little set, because I think that's going to come right up. And then let me also see, there's a question about the current program that they're running does not offer certifications, but it's more exploration. And in the same building, there's also a CNA class. So should the teacher be looking to add the credential, or because the CNA is in the same building, will it be okay to continue with how your class is? You know what, I'm going to answer that in the next one too. So let me dive into credentials so that you can see how this works, because I think that will help. So let's talk credentials, because we'll get to these questions and then I'm sure you'll have some more. When our grant group looked at the credentials that employers value, you can imagine for health, because we're such a broad zip code, there were a lot, right? And so they really had to put some boundaries on their work because there was only so much they could get done in a period of time. So let me say first, the list that you're going to get is not all inclusive. There will be more that we'll add along the way, I'm sure. So they first had to put some boundaries around that work and decide what they were able to tackle. And then they went out to employers and said, okay, tell us what you value. And obviously there were some supplemental credentials that came up for health, but they didn't meet the Perkins quality indicator. And so I just want to acknowledge that there are those supplemental credentials like CPR and first aid that are critical for our health students to have. And just because they didn't come up on the approved list doesn't mean that you shouldn't still continue to offer them. because it makes a student highly competitive and marketable. It really helps with their work-based learning placements. And we know that it's something that they need to have just to hit some of the measures and the standards in our profession. So if you're offering those, continue to offer them. And there'll be a place in CETUS where you can acknowledge that you've done those. But by themselves, they didn't meet enough of the standards that we have, enough of the occupational standards to count alone as a Perkins quality indicator. And the way that we determined what did was that after employers identified those credentials that were important to them, then we asked our grantees to look at, does the employer value it, first of all? And if they do, does it lead to a living wage? And if by itself it doesn't lead to a living wage, is it at least a job that creates an entry point that then they can build upon to get to a living wage? So, is it part of that career ladder? And when you think about those things alone, you'll see why, even though first aid and CPR and OSHA 10 are important, by themselves, they don't lead to a living wage, and they don't necessarily by themselves lead to that career ladder. There's always something else that the student needs to attain first. And then beyond that, we asked our grantees to go back and align to the standards that we have in Michigan. And when they aligned to those standards, we asked them to tell us what percentage of the standards does this credential hit. And I want to warn you up front, there's not a credential that we found that meets 100%, which is to be expected. Our SIP codes are really broad. So they're meant to show students exploration. So what we did is looked at that percentage, and you'll see in some of the documents that we have for you, what we intended for that to do. If you're teaching to a particular credential, say the CNA, then this group of standards is already taken care of for you just by teaching to that credential. And then here's the other group that you have to cover and worry about individually as a teacher. So that helped us give you some documentation and some things that you can use as you build your curriculum. So I'd like to share with you that list of credentials first. And to do that, I really want to rely on our grantees who are here, because they did all of the communication with our employer partners. So Carrie Stamas from Kent ISD led that group. And Carrie, I'm not sure who of your team is here, but if they're here and you'd introduce them, that would be fabulous. And if you could tell us a little bit about how you attacked all of this, and then the credentials that you found and the conversations that you had.
Absolutely. Thank you, Selena. And we did have two grant coordinators who worked with us. So Susan Vandersloot, I did see is on here, but I did not see Angela Vandermolen. But we did have two coordinators, and there might be some times where Susan's going to be able to provide some information depending on the questions and the process as that comes up. But I do want to thank them for their dedication and hard work. I also want to point out that the Office of Career Tech Ed has been very supportive as we went through this process. We had our first meeting March 3rd, and then 10 days later, the pandemic shut everything down. And so we certainly had to do a lot of work to adjust what we were planning, because we had a lot of face-to-face things planned. We had a lot of opportunities that we were going to get together and explore this, and that changed very quickly. But we felt, and what we did as a Perkins region, ourselves and Allegan, our combined Perkins region, and Muskegon also joined us in this process to be able to sit down and look at what's going on. When we heard this grant proposal was coming out, we looked at what we're all doing in terms of healthcare. We looked at the pre-approved list, and you can see here CNA and EMT license. Those were the pre-approved lists. Those are the current two for this school year that are there. We knew we needed some more options. And so we felt that we could get together here with our group and then reach out across the state to try to identify just some working groups that we could get together. And we really solidified some working groups around aligning the CNA, aligning the EMT since they were already approved, looking at medical assisting, looking at pharmacy tech. And then as we revisited it, we came back to patient care technician, EKG tech as a stacked credential, and phlebotomy as a stacked credential, for really to put out some options for those programs that are out there It's good. Angie just let me know she is here, so I didn't see her by name, but I'm glad she's here because she was our curriculum expert in terms of the content itself. She's a former CTE teacher in health as well as currently working in industry. And Susan was our curriculum person who really understood the systems and curriculum development. So thank you, Angie. I'm glad you're here. We really want to identify what feedback and what input we have, and then really try to explore the different working groups that we were able to put together. So as Selena said, we know that this is not an exhaustive list. Selena will talk about, if you don't see your credential on here, how to get your specific credential. If your region and you feel that this is of value, there is a process by which more can be added. But this is the work that we did, and we focused around these working groups as we developed through here. So as was mentioned, we really started with two different approaches. We started by reaching out to business and industry throughout Michigan because it was required that we take a statewide approach. And we reached out and began to gather information from them to ask them, what are your entry-level positions? What are the credentials that you look for? What do you post for? What are required credentials? What are preferred credentials? And what does that look like? And at the same time, we reached out to CPIDs and we reached out to instructors throughout the state to say, who wants to be involved? Who wants to provide some input? And who can we bring together in our working groups? We engaged West Michigan Works here in West Michigan. We engaged the UP Works together, that industry experience from throughout the state, the UP as well, and really looked for everyone we could to be able to provide that input. And so around these areas, we as I said, we developed these working groups, and we really took that information and identified then what those options were. And then our working groups really boiled it down to say, what's possible in high school, what fits with higher ed in terms of pathways, and what is it that we can do and what can we align to make it really functional. And you can see we came out with the list in front of you. And I'm going to highlight one specifically because I know there was a lot of tough discussion around this one, and that is the medical assisting, the Certified Clinical Medical Assisting, which is NHA. And we know there are two other medical assisting credentials out there, and that's where we really kind of batted that around back and forth to really look at what was functional and what was possible within the scope of what's happening in high school career tech ed. You know, the clinical hours required for some of the other medical assisting certifications and some of the things that are there were based on the working group's input difficult. And so we looked and we knew we needed something for medical assisting. We know that there are areas in the state, maybe not everywhere in the state, that do look for this specific credential. And we aligned this one because we felt that it was important that we had an MA option. We knew it did lead down a pathway. It did lead to a job that had provided that living wage. And we did that for all of these. So you can kind of see that progress and how we progressed through this and aligned it to the national standards, aligned it to our standards, and identified those competencies really based on what that national health science standard is. Selena, if there's anything else you'd like me to add, but that's kind of the gist of what the process was as we went through and the credentials that we identified with your approval.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. That's perfect. So I do see that there's some questions in the chat, and I like to catch some of those right now before we keep going, just so all of you, have some closure with some of those things. So this group did a fabulous job of looking at the multitude of credentials. But again, we know that this isn't all of them. So in just a minute, I'm going to talk a little bit about that enhancement option to add more. So if you don't see your particular credential here, please don't worry. There'll be options to add more. And again, this group did such a fabulous job coming back around and adding some to that. I do see that there's some questions about, in particular, which organizations or which certifying organizations are supported. And Susan put some of that information in the chat, but one of the things that we didn't have here for you today that's coming soon are some credential tip sheets. So those will be like a one-page, two-sided tip sheet that will be on our website. And you'll be able to find those by clicking on CTE instructional programs And then on the area of the website that has your career cluster, when you click on that career cluster button for health science, it's going to take you in where the current gap analysis documents are housed. And eventually there'll be tip sheets there that will tell you more about the credential, more about what you might need to know to offer that credential, and then some of the specifics for those practice tests and curriculum and things like that from those vendors. So all of that information will be there. And as you look at those when they come out, if it doesn't answer some particular questions and you think, gosh, there's still this thing that I really need to know, let us know that so that we can make those tip sheets even better for you. So that's still coming. And then let me see, I think Susan is answering some of the specific credential questions in the chat. So thank you, Susan, because that helps for sure. And then right now there's some questions about athletic training and dental. Those in particular are ones that we know are still out there. So I'll tell you in just a minute how you can get those added. And then let me look here just to see. All right, there's a few more questions and we'll try to catch those for you as well about what do you do if you don't have the experience to teach something? And I have a slide for that and we'll address that towards the end of our presentation. And then recommended curriculum will be on some of those tip sheets for you. So one of the other pieces of this grant that I really want to highlight for you in particular as health teachers, because you have so many credentials identified, was some of the above and beyond work that your grant group really did to help you out. So what you see here is just a glimpse into that. And you should have one of these sample documents, or actually maybe you have 4 or 5 of these sample documents in your Know Before You Go packet. But they really looked at the credential itself and compared that credential to the standards and competencies that we have for health. And when they did that, you know, right now, let's say you're teaching the CNA, you have to answer to that credentialing body and follow that curriculum. And then you also have the gap analysis document and you have to answer to that for OCTE. And there's really a pretty nice crossover in some places. And so that's what they looked at. And that's what you'll see on these charts. Each of these credentials kind of addresses or covers some of the standards to varying degrees. And so what they've provided for you is a document that looks kind of like this. And this is just a snippet. But they were able to show you if you're teaching to a particular credential and offering that to students, it covers all of these competencies and standards, and you don't have to teach those because by addressing the credential, you're already getting them. But here are the things that the credential doesn't address that you have to do on your own as an instructor, whether it's through one of those supplemental credentials or whether it's through creation of your own units. So you should have some of those in your Know Before You Go packet. And we're hoping that that will ease some of your workload by not making you do that alignment for 2 different entities. In fact, as we move through this process, you no longer will have to create a gap analysis document. So you won't have to fill that out and turn it into OCTE anymore. You'll still have some of that work and some of those alignments that you'll be able to see and you can use if you're doing curriculum work, if you're talking with your post-secondary partners to beef up articulation or credit agreements, but you won't have to turn that into us anymore because you're already answering to a credentialing body. You're already doing some of that work in your classroom with your post-secondary credit agreements. So if you're one of those folks that's teaching in an area where we haven't identified a credential, what do you do? Later this summer or early fall, we'll be putting out what we're calling enhancement grants because we know that there's more things that can go on the list. And so you can apply for an enhancement grant. And that grant is intended so that you can go out and talk to your employer partners, ask them what they value, and then come back with some proposals for some approved credentials that should be part of the list. And this grant will be a little bit of a shorter process because you won't have to create the competencies. You'll just have to align with the work that's already been done. And then you can go through the process to have those added. So that's coming. Watch for those announcements. And in the meantime, if you're, say, a dental teacher or someone who's teaching sports medicine, we're going to help you move to or from segments to competencies, but we know that your credential just isn't here yet. So please don't panic and think that now you have to radically switch gears and pick up something that's very different than what you've been trained to teach. So with that, I'm going to make sure that we caught all of the information and all of the questions in the chat, but if there's any more, please, please speak up. We have a couple folks that have asked if we can resend the know before you go. So if I can get Michelle maybe to throw some of them in the chat, that would be helpful. And then we'll also send them out after the fact too, so that we make sure that you get them. And then there is a question about exploration classes. And we do understand that it is still really important for students to just be able to explore and look at different careers in the health field. I mean, when you're entering a CTE class as a sophomore or a junior or even a senior, sometimes you don't really know for sure what you want to do. And it's a great opportunity to kind of test the waters and to see what's out there. And so there's still a place for that. Eventually, there will maybe be some other credentials that can be added, and there may be some things that you can pick up even from this credential list that will offer students an opportunity to use that as a stepping stone to move into other things later. And then another question is, do all of our students need this? Or is it just an option in your program? And to complete, do they have to have a credential? And that's also a really good question. When we were aligned to assessments, every student had to take the assessment to be a completer, but not pass. But now, with credentials, we're only counting students who have earned the credential. And so some of these credentials are pretty expensive. And let me see if I can explain to you how the math is going to work for this. The federal government doesn't have a definition for completer like Michigan does. So instead, they're looking at students who are concentrators. And now all of our data will revolve around concentrators. So when you do your follow-up surveys will no longer be on completers, but they'll be on concentrators. And so with that, a concentrator is going to be a student who's completed 2 Perkins courses. And I'll show you what those look like today so that you can get a sense of that. So they likely haven't completed everything in your program. And we're going to look to see, along with the federal government, how do those students fare and what do they do later? Where do they go and what do they do with the amount of knowledge that they had? So we'll be looking at students for our Perkins Core Performance Indicator who were concentrators who earned a credential by August 31st after they graduated. So to figure that out, there's a numerator and a denominator. The denominator for that formula is every CTE concentrator in Michigan, whether their program has a credential or not. And then the students who are the numerator are the CTE students who have earned a credential who were concentrators. So your students could earn a credential after they go through your exploratory class and then maybe take another class that offers a credential in the health field and still count as part of that numerator. They don't have to earn that to fit the definition of a completer. And I think Michelle will probably throw that in the chat for us. There is a memo that has those definitions for you. So we want to make sure, because these are kind of expensive, that you're preparing students for that credential and that you only send students to try to earn that credential who are prepared for it. So hopefully that helps answer that question a little bit. Oh, and I see a hold up, no more gap analysis. That is true. That is true. We're going to provide you with some really great documents, some really amazing curriculum documents that will help you with your alignment, but you don't have to report back to what level you teach things and turn them into us. And then there's another question, if we have a 2-year program, do we need to offer a credential each year? No, you don't. We'll have some conversation about what this looks like for your individual programs and the way that they're set up. But you could have a 2-year program in which there is an opportunity to earn the credential in the first year or in the second year. And I do see something about National Council for Strength and Fitness, so that's definitely something to look at. Is Q still allowed is another question. And yes, there is still room for a Q segment or advanced content in your area. So that will still be an option for you to report. There's also another question that says many of these certification tests can't be taken until a student is 18 or has already graduated. And that's true. We do realize that. So that was a big conversation as part of our accountability subcommittee. And hence the reason that you have until the end of August after a student has graduated to be able to record that they've earned the credential. Because we do know, sometimes you have a student who graduates at 17 and doesn't turn 18 for a little bit. We also know that sometimes a student may earn that credential that you helped prepare them for after August 31st. And in that case, while it doesn't count for your core performance indicator data, what you did was still incredibly valuable to that student. And I don't want you to stop doing those things. So continue to do that. And we know we're not going to catch every single student, if 18 is the requirement, but you are still providing the training that they need for that. And that's still important. That's still of great value to them. There is a question about the percentage goal. So right now, the percentage goal for that core performance indicator in Michigan is around 3%. Really small because we didn't have a lot of data and we didn't have a lot of credentials identified. So it's 3% across all 53 zip codes. So all of that data is coming in together. And we look at that on a regional level. So you'll still get individual data for your program to see how you fared. But in the mix, you're in with all of those other zip codes on a regional level. And that will determine how your region performs. There currently isn't a credential effect or for funding that student. So that isn't something that we have in place at this time. And added cost funding still hasn't been determined yet. So all of this is being done outside of that. Let's see here. There's some more questions about whether or not a student has to pass. And yes, they have to pass and earn the credential to count as part of that core performance indicator. And there is another question that leads me to another point, just to make sure that all of you know. It may be that we as teachers have to follow up with some students to find out this information because the student gets the information about whether or not they're awarded the credential, and we might not get that as a teacher. So that is a challenge that we'd like to overcome in the future. It's kind of a barrier, but for now, we'll have to follow up and ask those students that information. Couple more questions, and I do want to make sure that we're going to have the answers for these in the FAQ because you all have a lot of good questions. Reporting of credentials for your teacher evaluation. That's something that we have discouraged at OCTE, that these core performance indicators aren't necessarily something that should be used for purposes of teacher evaluation. Although I will tell you one great way to use these credentials is as a marketing tool for your program, because you're doing amazing things for students and giving them a competitive advantage that others don't have. So I would use it as a marketing tool. As teacher evaluation, I would discourage that simply because you and I know that not every student is even going to qualify to be able to try for a credential, either based on age or based on career goals, or sometimes based on just the ratio of students that you can have earning that credential and doing that work-based learning component at one time. So that's why I would discourage that. And then I'm just peeking through here just to see if there's other questions that I can answer right away for you. There are some questions about the amount of time that it takes. Oh, sorry, go ahead. All right, well, if you think of it, speak up, but there are some questions about the amount of time that it takes to get a credential and taking 1 or 2 years, and we'll kind of show you some of the flexibility that you have here coming up. So let me move into standards to competencies, and again, continue to throw your questions in the chat, and we'll try to make sure that we get those. And I'll keep an eye on our time too, so that we can get done in time to have some free conversation as well. So one of the big changes beyond the credentials are moving from our standards and our segments to competencies and PCCs. And I want to make sure as we do this that we have a shared language so that when we talk about these things, we know what we mean. So in general, when we talk about competence, we're talking about an explicit, measurable demonstration of skill. So if you were a core academic teacher, you would talk about a competent student as someone who is proficient. And if you were an employer, you would talk about someone who is competent as someone who is able to do the job. So when you think of these competencies that we're going to talk about, they're explicit, they're measurable, and they tell us what a student knows and what a student is able to do. And we usually talk about competency as part of competency-based education or a competency-based system. And there are pieces of this that we're going to pick up for the project. Now, I also want to just give you a disclaimer and say a lot of times when we talk about competency-based education, we also think of grading practices. We're going to talk just a little bit about that, but that's not something that we're going to require you to change. So in general, in a competency-based system, it's based more on the student's mastery and their timetable and the ability that they have to move through and demonstrate their knowledge and proficiency with material. In a traditional education system, sometimes we tend to move through strictly based on time. So building a house is a good example of this. If we were a traditional system and we were building a house, we would say to the mason, all right, you got 3 weeks to put in the basement. Have at it. And when the 3 weeks were done, whether the mason was finished and complete or not, we'd go back to our builder and say, okay, time for the first floor. And we'd put on the first floor. But we know that if we don't build the foundation correctly, anything that we put on top of that isn't sturdy and doesn't last. And our house would crack and fall apart. So in a competency-based system, we make sure that that foundation is good and that students know and are able to do the things that they need to do to build on that later. And we're really good at that in CTE. That tends to be something that we naturally do. Now, the other piece of this that I alluded to is the grading piece. And one of the things that's tough for us in education is communicating with all of our partners, because we have to deal with a system of grades. And so if you look at this screen, you'll see 5 different students who have all earned the same grade at the end. They all have a C. But that doesn't really tell people what a student knows and is able to do. So take a peek at Oscar on the bottom. If Oscar were one of your students and got D's and F's on all of his tests, like let's say these were skill tests that you're doing, or maybe they were critical tests about medical terminology and anatomy. Oscar really doesn't have a C, right, in that area. But Oscar is the type of worker everyone wants. He's a hard worker. He shows up on time. He goes above and beyond and does extra. He's really employable that way. And so when we average those things together and create a C, we might know how Oscar performs and where his strengths are and where he needs work. But our post-secondary partners and our employer partners don't really know what that C means. And so by using a credential as a validation of competencies, that helps us speak the same language as our employer partners and as our post-secondary partners. If we were to say, Oscar earned a CNA, everybody knows what that means. We all know that then Oscar has a certain skill set that he can take and move to the workplace. And that's why these credentials are going to be so vital in our conversations. So let's talk about that process. How did we move from standards and segments to competencies and then courses? So I'm not sure if all of you are aware or not, but in your gap analysis document, you had multiple colors and multiple standards, and those came from 4 different sources. So our technical standards came from a national association or a credentialing or licensing body in most of our programs here in Michigan. So for us, those came from NISHE, from the National Consortium for Health Science. That's where our technical standards came from. And then we had cluster and pathway standards. And every zip code in Michigan is aligned with a specific cluster, and there are 16 of those. And then one of the pathways under that cluster, and there are 79 of those. So in general, you had your technical standards, then you had some cluster standards, which were overarching for all different types of health science programs. And then you had pathway standards, which were a little bit more specific for programs within that 51 zip. And when you get this PowerPoint, there'll be links there. So if you want to go in and look at some of these documents, you can. And then we also had career ready practices. And those career ready practices were a state-led initiative across the nation to look at what did students need to be able to know and do to be employable. And that group came up with 12 career ready practices. And underneath that, some different performance indicators that told us that they really were ready. So our group took those 12 and they condensed them down to 4. So there are 4 competencies for career ready practices that are the same across all of the programs in Michigan. Now, again, where you'll see these, and you can see a copy of your gap analysis up here. If you look at the gap analysis, you'll see the area in the box in red. And that told us if it was a knowledge or skill statement, something the student needed to know or to be able to do. And then we had these performance elements and measurement criteria. And those were suggestions about how you would know as a teacher that the student was really mastering that content. And then here you'll see the standard source and then the type of standard, and they were all color-coded different colors. So if you go back and look at the GAP document now, you'll be able to see the source of some of those standards. So we asked our grant group to first think about, if you're a health science teacher teaching any type of health science credential, what are the big ideas that a student needs to walk away with to be successful in your program and to enter industry or to move on to post-secondary training? Once they thought of those big ideas, then we asked them to go back and look at that gap analysis document and align the content standards that you had underneath those big ideas. So where did those knowledge statements fit? And then from there, we said, well, how does a teacher know? How do you know if a student's going to be successful? And they went back to those performance elements and measurement criteria and pulled from some of those as examples. They also were able to pull from some of the credentials as examples as well. So if you're familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, here's another way to think about it. And I know that this slide doesn't tell you the exact Bloom's levels of knowledge, comprehension, application, but it gives you some words that help you understand. When we think about our content standards, those are usually written at a knowledge and comprehension level. It's what does a student know, or what can they describe or recall or identify? It's all that foundational stuff that our students need to know before they can really apply things. And then when we look at those performance elements, that's what they're able to do with that knowledge. And then finally, those big ideas sit up here in the create and evaluate section. How can they take that and work across content areas or show you something multiple times in multiple ways so that you know they've really mastered that big idea before they leave your program? So I'm going to show you this a different way, just so that you can see that process, because sometimes this movement from standards to competencies can be complex. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to get at the same result. we have our 4 standard areas that we pulled standards from. And our group looked at those standards, and they sometimes looked at ones that went together and said, what fits together? What is what we call naturally sticky? From there, they put them together and then wrote a big idea around them. So for health, it looks like this. Here's one of your competencies in the blue box. One of the competencies for health is to employ communication strategies that are used in the delivery of quality healthcare. To get that, they pulled standards from our 4 areas, and here you'll see your standards. And if you look at them, they all look pretty close to the same, or they relate really well. Now, had this been the gap analysis document, you would have had to rate each of these. So now we're putting them together and giving you one statement that goes with them. And then they took these naturally sticky things, again, right from our gap document, and then they thought about what could a student do to demonstrate that they understand how to employ communication strategies, that they're able to do that. And they looked at the credentials that we have, and then they aligned those to the credential. So if your student is a CNA student, one of the things that they have to do is to go through that beginning and ending 10. They have to demonstrate those completion tasks in their skill assessment. That's a communication strategy used in delivering quality healthcare. That's one way that you know that a student has met this competency. If you're a pharmacy tech teacher and you're offering that credential, your student might do this by talking with a client and counseling them about what do they need to know about the medication that they're taking. That might be how they do this. So it really allows us to differentiate education for students. The same end result, they've mastered the same thing, but the way that they showed you how to do that was different. So in essence, it looks like this. Our 4 different standard areas, we pulled the things together that were naturally sticky or went together, created a competency, and then our grantees aligned those to different credential options so that you can get at the mastery of that through different on either what you're offering to students or what their interest area is. So this you should have a copy of in your Know Before You Go. And these are your your competency areas. And just to help you look at this, these are aligned to the NISHE Foundation standards. So you'll see academic foundations, communications, systems. So that should help you in your mind kind of align that to the national standard so that you can see how those fit. And then if you see on this document something in italics, that means it fits in a couple different places. So we just wanted you to know it's not an additional one, it's just repeated. So I'll give you a minute to peek at that. And we'll go in and find out what kind of questions you have around these. I'm going to go back into the chat here. There is a question about teacher requirements to teach any of the individual specific credentials. There will be specific credential requirements. So for example, if you're teaching the CNA, you have to have had specific industry experience to be able to do that. Now, your program still could contract with someone else who's able to do that. But if you yourself aren't able to, then that might not be the credential that you offer. In general, we looked at things that fell under that 51 SIP so that we offered as many options as possible. But those individual credentialing bodies may have their own requirements as well. There is a note about the possibility for direct competition for clinicals with community colleges. And I'll say where I came from, that also was an issue. So it might be something that you run by your advisory committee, or you talk about how you can collaborate, and that may impact the decisions that you make, depending on what your particular situation is like. And then there is a comment, the document doesn't print out well. So we will try to see if we can fix that for you to make sure that that prints for you so that you can see it, because you should have it as one full slide. And I want to make sure that, that you're able to read it. And then there's a question about, will the PSNs change to reflect each certification? And no, your PSN and your zip code will still stay the same. We want as much flexibility within that SIP as possible. And then there are some questions about professions that can teach the MA and the pharmacy tech class. So that's some information that we should probably include for you, or give you links to on those tip sheets. So we'll try to make sure that we address some of those things and give you more information as you're investigating those credentials. And then again, things on that sheet that are listed in italics are repeated in multiple areas, or linked to multiple foundation standards. So we wanted you to know that, that they were duplicated somewhere in case you were counting competencies and went, oh my gosh, just know that if they're in italics, they're repeated. So. And then another question about 2 years to take the CNA test. The credential itself is not linked to a concentrator. So by federal definition, a concentrator is a student who has completed 2 Perkins courses, or in Michigan, we're calling them PCCs. Now, they can be a concentrator without having taken that credential yet, but we're going to be following all of those concentrators to see who takes a credential and if they earn it. And that's the data that we're going to pull to kind of tell our story about what students are doing in Michigan.
Selena, let me ask you a question because that might clarify this.
Yeah.
So let's say I have a first year program, which is medical foundations, and then the second year program is PCT. So this year, if I were to record it as if it was next year, let's say I have 100 kids that are concentrators, because medical foundations covers 2 of those courses, right?
Okay.
But I only have 4 kids that choose to sit and pay for the test and pass the PCT test, because that's the other issue I'm finding is like the kids don't want to spend the money to pay for these tests and the school doesn't pay for it. So then that's going to affect our reporting too. So how do we report that for this year?
For this year, you're just going to report, actually that test will still be on our supplemental list this year. So if you have students who this year earn it, then you'll report that. If they haven't yet, and it's not until next year, you won't report until next year. Because that credential won't be on the list until next year, if that makes sense. There's 2 lists, there's an approved and a supplemental. Some of these credentials right now are on the supplemental list, but next year they'll transfer to the approved list. Does that help a little bit with that part of the question?
I was just trying to use this as an example if we were reporting next year, because what will happen is the following year, we'll have kids that had already done medical foundation because now they're in the PCT. So are we only reporting the kids we currently have during that time and that earn that certification during that 1 year? Or is it an aggregate of the 2 years together we have them?
You'll be reporting what they do as far as competencies in the year that you have them. But then you'll have until the August after they graduate to report whether or not they earn the credential. Now, how exactly that works in the system, I am not an expert at. That's definitely a question for our CETUS folks and our data folks, and they'll be putting out more information as the system is ready about how to do that. So you can still report on students after they leave your program, but have, until the August after they've graduated. Does that help?
A little. I was just trying to figure out how that 3% was going to work. Because do we change everything to be Q courses, right? Or do we leave everything as as a normal 12 segment and then Q course where you earn your certification?
I think you can do either. When you look at what these courses look like, I would not go yet and make radical changes to your program. I would think through, what you're doing, is it working for you? And if it's working for you and you're able to address the credential and students are getting there, then I think you're probably perfectly okay the way that you are. Unless you look at this and say, gosh, I think we could make some changes, or I think I could get more students earning a credential or offer more opportunities. And then you might go back and talk with your administrator and your advisory committee and see how to do that. But definitely take a peek at this and think through, what your program currently looks like and if you need to make changes or not. We tried to offer a lot of flexibility, and there isn't going to be a time where 100% of your students all want the same credential, nor do they all have the same career goal. Our goal is really to offer as many opportunities to students as possible and as much competitive advantage as possible, because they're going to walk out of your classroom and compete with folks who never took a CTE class, but yet want to go into the health field. And so we want to prepare our students to get those jobs and to walk into credentials and be able to move faster than their peers, or or to be able to go farther faster than their peers so that they get those positions. So that's really our goal. Let me go back to these questions really quickly and see if there's anything else that I can answer here before we go. There is a question about respiratory therapists teaching these credentials, and I can see there's a lot of questions about who can teach particular credentials. So I think that's something that we'll need to pull together for all of you and put out as quickly as possible so that you have some of that information, because that will help you make choices about what you want to do in the future. There are questions about apprenticeships. Right now, what counts for that Perkins 5 core performance indicator are registered Department of Labor apprenticeships, but I do know we have some groups that are looking at that, and there are some grants out right now in the state to enrich those. So there may be more information about that coming. And let me peek and see if there's anything. There is a question about why OSHA and phlebotomy are together. And so Carrie and Angie and Susan, do you want to address that question and what you found as you looked at both EKG and phlebotomy?
I'm actually going to defer that to probably Angie.
Thanks, Carrie. That was one of the credentials that the phlebotomy did not quite meet the Perkins standards as a standalone. So we made that a stackable credential, or we just put that into a bunch of stackables. So you have the phlebotomy, the OSHA, your CPR. So it just bunches them together to give them more, I don't know, just to, so you're covering more. It just didn't stand alone. So we stacked them.
Yep. It adds more weight. Thank you, Angie. It adds more weight. When we went through this process and for the approval, we were charged with looking at how much of the credit of the standards are covered and are matched by certain credentials, and the alignment was not as strong as some of the others. And so the level of how do we add a little more rigor, because if we're going to hold the bar up to say this is going to meet that core performance indicator, we want to include it. How do we feel that we can get this over the bar? And that was by grouping EKG with OSHA and first aid and CPR. Same thing with phlebotomy, to group them. So that was the intent and the purpose for that.
Thank you. I knew you guys could answer that very well because you've done a lot of work in that area. So I do want to touch on a couple other credentials questions that I'm seeing. There's a question about curriculum vendors training teachers to teach the curriculum. And I do know that we have some of our credential vendors who have some amazing resources. And so I'm going to talk a little bit later today about what we're doing as a state to try to partner with some of those folks and be able to offer some things to you. So, but I do know that they have resources out there and they're a great partner in this process. And then also there's a few questions in our chat about, should we be worried about job security if we're only teaching those exploration classes and we're not currently aligned with a credential? And are we required to offer one? So I realize that for our zip code, there are specialty areas. And some of those specialty areas aren't there yet. There's not a credential offered yet. There may not be a credential that we can find that's appropriate at the secondary level. But yet, what you are doing is you are really helping prepare students for the next level. So I don't want you to discount the work that you're doing, because there's still a great need for that general career exploration in the health field to be able to move on to some of these amazing careers. So what I would tell you is, if there's not a credential out there identified for you yet, and if you're teaching something that's very exploratory that you know is going to lead them to the next level, I would focus on as many supplementals as you can pull in to make sure that your students are marketable and they're competitive and that they're ready. And then I would focus on your post-secondary credit agreements. What can you do to align with your post-secondary partners to, again, make sure that those students are ready for the next level? So we'll keep working at this. It was one of the things that our grant group and I knew that we were going to have to think about as they worked through this project. So, so please don't be nervous if you don't see a credential there yet and you're doing more of that exploratory work, because the job that you do is important and it does lead to future careers. So we will find something eventually that's a fit for that.
Hey, Selena, can I jump in a minute?
Yes.
One
Yes,
of
absolutely.
the reasons we really returned back to the grant to identify the EKG technician and the phlebotomy opportunities were because they were I don't want to say quick, but I can't think of another word right now, but they were really quick certifications that could be taught in that first year, and yet they still had really high wage potential. So that was why we were kind of excited to include those in the stackable credentials. So I'd love to get some feedback from the teachers if they see that as an opportunity to satisfy that first year of the SIP code.
Perfect. So yes, give us feedback on that, later today or later on. I'll give you some mechanisms to give us more feedback and ask more questions, because we want to continue to improve this process as we go. And we want to make sure that we're doing things that work for all of you. So again, your grant group worked incredibly hard on this process and kept coming back to this to try to stick as much in there as possible for you. So let's move ahead and look at the PCC so that you can really kind of get this full picture of what the program will look like. So we talked about taking those standards that were naturally sticky and pulling them together and then making a competency. And then we did the same thing with competencies. They took those competencies or big ideas that come out of a course and they pulled them together to find out where they fit. Now, when they did this and they started to develop the PCC for reporting purposes, we gave them a little bit of guidance. And I want you to know this is the guidance that we gave the grant work group, but this doesn't necessarily have to be your guidance. So we told them to think about a PCC as taking approximately 80 hours to complete. So what competencies could you put together that took about 80 hours? And the reason that we did that is because we didn't want to have one group of competencies that maybe took 50 hours and another group that took 200, because that could be really hard for all of you for scheduling purposes. So we wanted to keep them fairly even. And one of the things that I know about the health science curriculum is that before we had some segments that could be incredibly long and some that could be fairly short. Like if you think about anatomy and physiology, that could take you all year, depending on your format. And that could take you a long time. And yet there were other things that were harder to kind of get at that might have been shorter. And then the student got the rest of it in work-based learning. So we wanted to keep that consistency. Now for you, when you see these PCCs, please don't think that that's 80 hours, that's all I can do. You are going to be able to make this flexible to work within your structure. So again, they took those big ideas of those competencies that were the same, put them together and created a PCC. So here's what yours look like. And you should have a longer document, I believe, and I'm going to show you what that looks like as well. But and you'll get a very expanded version when it comes out on our website. But in general, here's PCCA, and you can see the NISHE standards that it covers, and then the alignment to our current segments. And you will see some repeat there because some of our segments kind of got split up into those different PCCs. And so then here is B and C, and then D was reserved for what is going to end up probably being Q. Those are the things that align to the credential, that are those technical skills that are part of that credential and specific to that. So let me show you this in a little bit of a bigger chunk here. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see the PCC code. So now in CETUS, when you give information to your data entry person on that instructional design, which we're reworking for you so that it can accommodate this, but instead of telling them which segment, you'll tell them which PCC or competency code is there. Then here are the competencies that are off that list that I showed you. Here's how it aligns to the NISHE standards. And then here are the segments that you currently work under. So later this summer, we're going to show you a document that says, if you like the way that you're teaching things right now, here are the segments that you're teaching. Here's how you transition that to competencies and reporting under competencies. So there was A, here's course B. You'll notice there are fewer competencies, but they may take a little bit longer to teach. Here is C. And then here's D. So you should have all of this in that know before you go, and it's on one document, one large document for you. So when you're reporting this, there are a couple of different ways that you can look at this. And again, I want you to think about what you are doing, and if you're happy with what you're doing, you may not have to make any changes other than transitioning those codes from segments in your local course to competencies. But if you're thinking about the way that this is structured versus the way that you do things, and you want to take a peek and compare those, there's a couple different ways that you can think about it. So you could take the courses that the grant group has developed and lift them verbatim and use them. So for example, all of PCCA could be your local course one. That could be done in a semester, it could be done in a school year, it depends on your structure, and then so on. So another way to think about this is if you think about something that we all know well, if we think about driver's training, because we all know how to drive, right? So if I were a driver's training instructor and I wanted to lift a PCC or a Perkins course verbatim, let's say the first one was defined as traffic laws. And I think that's important. I think everyone should know the traffic laws, right? Probably before they get out there on the road. So if I'm a driver's training instructor, I'm going to say, I'm teaching all of the traffic laws first. But then the next course is parking skills. And I don't really know that I want to do parking next, because I think to park appropriately, you really need to understand the signs and the pavement markers. So instead of doing PCC B next, I'm going to do C. And you have that option to switch the order as well. Then I'm going to go back and teach parking skills. That's one way to do it. The other thing that you could do is more of an integrated model. So you could take each of those individual competencies and put them together within your local courses in a way that makes sense for you. Sometimes our academic partners do this as well. So think about science. Sometimes they lift like a course verbatim. They might teach all of biology and then all of chemistry and then all of physics. But other schools go back and offer integrated science A, which has some biology, some chemistry, and some physics. And then integrated science B with a little bit more biology, chemistry, and physics, and some earth science that all go together. You could do the same thing. You could pick and choose competencies that you want to put together and work those into your local courses. Now, once you record this in CETUS, CETUS will work its magic. And once you hit all of the competencies in a PCC, then it will grant that PCC to the student. So if this were driver's training, it might be that, say, I only have a couple of vehicles and I don't have a lot of time in segment 1 to get students out on the road and into those vehicles. So I can't teach all of traffic laws first. I have to be able to get students in a vehicle and get them time there. So I might teach just the traffic laws that they need to know to do some basic vehicle movement and some parking. And then I might teach the signs and the pavement markers that go with just parking. And then I'm going to get those students right out in the parking lot and teach them what they need to know about parking skills. And that's my course A. And then in course B, we'll talk more about what it's like to actually drive through town, you know, when you're going 25 miles an hour before we ever hit the highway. And that'll be my local course B. It'll be those traffic laws and those signs and pavement markings and those skills that I'll teach them in the second course. So again, you have the option to do either. Now, coming up next year, you're going to be reporting your courses in terms of competencies and PCCs. And I showed you, here's the instructional design template that we had used for this year in the new program application. And we'll be redesigning it a little bit so that you'll be able to report by those competency codes. We know that if you want to offer a credential that you aren't currently offering, to be able to do that by the fall is a really tight timeline and probably not realistic. So in that case, you don't have to start reporting those credentials this fall. You have some time to sit down with your advisory committee and your administrator, look at your program, what makes sense for all of you and what's valued in your area, and then go back and take some time to get the professional development that you need, to look at the resources, to look at your program structure, and make some well-informed choices, and then offer that in 22-23. So normally we'd have questions here. I want to skip ahead and give you just a little bit more information that I know is going to answer some of the questions you've already had, and then we'll come back to questions. So really quickly, how do you phase this in? I have this slide for you, and these are just some options. This isn't verbatim, but in general, if your course is already offering a credential and you like what you're doing and it's working for you, somewhere in that PSN, whether it's in the first year or the second year, but it's somewhere in there and you're offering that, then probably all you need to do is to go back and look at that and move from reporting segments to reporting competencies. And we'll show you how to do that. If you're not currently offering a credential, there could be some reasons why, and we talked about some of those today, but those are listed in this second box here, second column. And so it could be that you're qualified to teach one, but maybe you just haven't been yet, or there hasn't been a need. And so in that case, we gave you some actions or some next steps that you might consider. Finally, all the way down to probably the big question that our group has: what if I'm not qualified to teach any of them and I can't become qualified? And in that case, we also gave you some action steps down here, some things to do as next steps to start to implement some of these things. And in general, you'll move from reporting segments to reporting competencies, and then you'll start looking at what works for you for the future. Now, to help you with all of these things, we have a survey that's coming out. In fact, after today, you'll get some more of those resources, a repeat of what you got in the Know Before You Go, and you'll get 2 surveys. One that just says, how was this professional development and did it meet your needs? And then another one that's called a credential readiness survey. And we really want you to answer these surveys because this one in particular is going to give us, as the state of Michigan, information to be able to help you. So if you need more information about how to become, certified to teach some of these things, or if you need to know more about that credentialing body and resources, you can indicate that in the survey. And then we're going to look at that as a state and we're going to work to try to get some of those things for you. So what in general do most people need and how can we help you? And how can we support you? Then we're also going to take this information by region and pass it along regionally. So if there are things that your region needs, we can help them help you as well. So pop in and take that because that'll give us the information that we need to support you. And then finally, we have some sessions coming up that I want to tell you about. I know you have lots of questions. I want to make sure that I get to those, and I know we're supposed to be done at 5, but I will stay on and answer some of those for you so that I can make sure that your needs are met. But we have some Q&A sessions coming up. Those are in June. You don't have to attend all 3. We set up 3 different dates because we're not sure when you're going to be done with instruction, and we wanted to make sure we gave you lots of opportunity. So in those sessions, you'll enter a Zoom just like this, but you'll be in a breakout room with me, and you can ask any question you have and we'll work to find answers. So it's all about helping you. And then we also have some instructional design sessions because we know you're moving from segments to competencies. And there's going to be some reporting questions and just some basic design questions. And again, 2 sessions offered. You only have to attend 1, or if you've got it figured out, you don't have to attend any. And so those are there to help give you some models of how to move from segments to competencies and courses. And then again, to answer your questions for you. So those are a couple of options. And then finally, before I catch the chat again and look at questions, this email address for Career Pathways is one where you can email us at any time between now and implementation and beyond. So if you have questions that you need answers to, email us at this address. We'll know it's specific to this project and we'll get back with you. And then we'll add these questions to the FAQ document so that we can share them with all of you and all of us together can collectively have the answer.